My family ignored my daughter's birthday once again. Nobody arrived. However, after 4 days, I got a notification that $2,900 had been taken from my card. I tried calling, but there was no response. So, I sent a brief message that said, "Expect a call from my lawyer." Within 10 minutes, the family group chat exploded. My sister was shouting in voice notes, followed by my dad. Throughout the evening, my daughter remained silent. She kept looking toward the gate, hoping someone would walk in. Maybe her cousins, or at least her grandparents. Several times she asked if I thought they were caught in traffic. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth that they were not coming. My husband tried to brighten her mood, helped her blow out the candles and open her gifts. She smiled, but it was not genuine. It was the kind of smile you wear because someone expects it. She did not say it, but I understood her thoughts. Why did they not show up? They always claim family means everything when they want something from me. But when it concerns her, they suddenly find themselves too busy. The day before, we had decorated the backyard with balloons, streamers, and a new basketball hoop. It was not extravagant, just something enjoyable for a 9-year-old who had been excited about this celebration since April. A handful of her schoolmates came, which helped lift the atmosphere. The cake was her favorite flavor, cookies and cream. We had a small speaker playing music. Anyone passing by might have thought it was a fun party, but I noticed how much it truly hurt. Many times she glanced toward the gate. Her eyes sparkled each time someone arrived, but dimmed whenever it was not the person she eagerly awaited. The hardest part was that none of them ever reached out. Not my parents, not my sister, no messages, no FaceTime calls, no apologies for missing the celebration. Just silence, as if the day had never happened. That evening, I felt a fury I hadn't experienced in years. I was not even shocked anymore. Simply finished with it all. I opened our family group chat and typed, "Thanks for remembering your niece and granddaughter's birthday. She really enjoyed herself without you." They saw the message. I could tell. Still, no one answered. The following morning, I clung to a small hope that they might grasp how unfair this was. Instead, my sister Lily finally replied, "It's not like it was a big birthday. 9 is not even a milestone." I just stared at her words. I did not even respond. How do you answer someone who believes a child's joy depends on whether the age includes a 0? Then just when I thought nothing could shock me more, the real blow hit. On Thursday afternoon, my phone alerted me that $2,900 had been taken from my checking account. It was not a temporary hold. The money was simply gone. At first I suspected fraud. But when I checked the details and saw where the withdrawal came from, I felt like a fool. A week before the party, my dad had called, explaining that their plumbing had broken down completely and required urgent repairs. The plumber demanded payment immediately. I was already overwhelmed, trying to manage the party plans. He was busy with his stuff and work, but he caught me at just the right moment. He mentioned the cost would be approximately $600. I told him I would cover it temporarily until they sorted everything out. I gave him my card, and then, amidst all the other things happening, I forgot to ask for it back. That was my fault. However, what they did with it was entirely their responsibility. I tried calling my dad with no answer. Called again, still nothing. I reached out to Lily. No response. I sent a message to the group chat, but they went completely silent. So I sent one final message. It was brief. Wait for a call from my lawyer. Exactly 10 minutes later, chaos erupted. Voice messages flooded in from Lily, panicking and making it sound like I had crossed a line. My dad began calling my phone repeatedly. Then my mom finally texted me directly saying, "Don't do anything crazy. We were going to explain." Explain what? 2 hours later, my dad showed up at my door holding my card like some kind of peace offering. No apology, no sign of regret. he just said they decided at the last minute to go to the Keys with their friends. He claimed they deserved a break and figured they would just use the card now and deal with it later. He actually told me he thought I would understand. I stood there in the doorway, listening to this man try to justify stealing $2,900 from me just 4 days after ignoring his granddaughter's birthday, as if this was normal, as if the problem was not what he did but how I was reacting. I took the card and told him we would discuss it later. But I knew there would be no later. Something inside me had changed. I refused to continue playing the part they had assigned me. The dependable one, the person who pays the rent, handles repairs, and cleans up their messes. They made their decision, and now it was my moment to respond. When my father handed me the card, as if it were nothing, expecting a loan to resolve everything, he did not even show an ounce of shame. He simply stood there and claimed they had booked a spontaneous trip to the Keys with some friends, and thought it was easier to use my card instead of dealing with banks and credit restrictions. He said they planned to tell me after they returned. The worst part was how casually he said it, expecting me to understand as if this was not the first time. He actually said, "We needed it more than you did." Without replying, I closed the door. I feared saying something that would only make the situation worse. That night, I lay awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced with thoughts of my daughter waiting at the gate, about how they could disregard her birthday as trivial and then casually drain my account to fund their vacation. I remembered every occasion I covered for them: bills, repairs, emergencies, groceries. It all accumulated. Yet the next day, I gave them an opportunity. I sent another message to the family chat with a straightforward statement. "You spent $2,900 that belonged to me. I expect it back by Friday." Lily saw the message but stayed silent. Later that night, my mother responded saying, "We'll work something out after the trip. It has been a difficult year, Eliza. Our financial situation is far from stable." They were also struggling with money. They were staying in the Keys. In that very same month, they reached out to me asking for help to buy new kitchen appliances. I spent $600 from my own funds on a dishwasher and a stove for them. They assured me they would reimburse me, naturally. That assurance now seemed to be buried somewhere in the sand near a cocktail. The more I pondered, the more obvious it became. They never meant to pay me back. They counted on me to forgive and forget, just like in the past. For years they depended on me because I am the one who avoids conflict and always takes responsibility, especially when it comes to Lily. She has been attending law school for the past 1.5 years. During this entire period, I have been covering her rent, $750 each month, because Mom and Dad insisted she should focus entirely on her studies. They said it was important and that I was able to manage it. So that morning I called the landlord and informed him that starting next month, Lily would be responsible for the full rent herself. He sounded taken aback but did not argue and said he would inform her. Then I left a message in the family chat saying I was no longer paying Lily's rent and that she should reach out to Mom and Dad for assistance if needed. There was silence for the first hour. Then Lily called. I did not pick up. Soon messages started arriving. My mother said I was being harsh, claimed I was punishing my sister unfairly, and accused me of hurting my own family just to prove a point. But my intention was not to punish anyone. I was simply no longer willing to carry the burden alone. The responsibility of the family finances fell on me. I replied with just one sentence. "You all had funds for a trip. I am certain you will manage the rent." No one answered. 2 days passed in complete silence. Then Lily reached out to me again, tears in her voice. I still chose not to answer. It was not an act of cruelty. At last, they had to learn to live without me constantly cleaning up after them. Yet, they were not prepared for this lesson. Not at this moment. After I ceased covering Lily's rent, I did not expect any gratitude. However, what followed was even more surprising. She messaged me relentlessly for 2 full days. Her tone shifted from polite to desperate, then to guilt that was impossible to hide. She admitted she was already falling behind in her classes, that her instructors were pressing her, and this could shatter all her hard work. She threatened to drop out if I did not step in. I kept silent. She continued, insisting she was not the one who spent the money from my account, accusing me of being unreasonable, and claimed I was allowing one mistake by our parents to ruin the entire family. Then she said something I never thought I would hear. If you cared about me even half as much as you care about your daughter, you would not do this. I just sat there, stunned. It was not the insult that shocked me, but the arrogance, the belief that she was entitled to my support as if it were a subscription granted by birth. As if she had earned the $750 I transferred monthly merely by existing. Then everything fell silent. The family group chat went completely quiet. No one reached out. No one asked how my daughter was doing. The birthday went unmentioned. There was no apology for the money. Just complete silence, as if they were hoping I would give up. 3 days later, my aunt called. She rarely contacts me. She hesitated at first before explaining she had been visiting my parents, and something did not feel right. Apparently my dad had cleared out a side room, the one where my old belongings were stored, including my comic book collection. I initially thought he might have simply moved it. I drove over without warning. The house was empty. I let myself in since I still had the key, although it felt strange to use it now. The room was bare, completely empty. Only a few boxes of clutter in one corner and a vacuum cleaner. My shelves were gone. The boxes that were sealed tight were missing. My collection was gone. It was not just comics, but pieces of my childhood. First editions, signed issues, items I had waited in long lines to buy, treasures discovered in hidden shops and online auctions, all carefully packed, labeled, insured. 2 decades of memories. I texted my dad asking, "Where is my comic book collection?" There was no reply. I called, but it went straight to voicemail. I left a message saying if he had sold or discarded any part of the collection, I would never forgive him. That was not a threat, but a cold truth. That night, he finally replied with a text. We needed the space. You never came to pick it up. It was just gathering dust. Don't be so dramatic. I stared at the screen, expecting a follow-up message, maybe some reassurance, or that it was safely stored in the garage, but nothing followed. That was all. That was his attempt at an explanation. He understood its financial value, of course, but more importantly, he knew it belonged to me. I had trusted him with it. It was one of the very few pieces from my past I still held dear. Yet, he discarded it, or worse, used it as a way to punish me over the rent. Their goal was to hurt me because I stopped covering for them, because finally, I said no. So, behind my back, they quietly took something I cherished. They had never truly seen me angry before, not in a real way. But they were about to, because there was still one thing they were holding on to that was mine. My car. And it was soon going to be out of their hands. When I discovered my comic collection was missing, something inside me simply went numb. I did not yell. I did not shout. I did not initiate some dramatic family confrontation. I just stopped feeling anything toward them. That must have been the moment everything became real. Not when they took the money. Not when they ignored my daughter's birthday. But when they entered that room and erased 2 decades of my life without telling me. I did not need proof. My father's message made it obvious. They needed the space. Don't be dramatic, they said. They were not trying to survive by selling it. They did not mistakenly give away a box or lose it somewhere. They just decided it did not matter. That I did not matter. What they failed to realize was that they had made their last move. There was still one thing left of mine in their possession. The SUV. My old but carefully maintained vehicle that I had lent to my father over a year ago. When his vehicle broke down, he asked if he could borrow mine for a few months. He assured me it would only be until he could afford a used car. Naturally, those few months stretched into more than a year. He treated it as if it belonged to him, parking it in their driveway, changing the insurance documents to their address, and using it like his personal vehicle. However, I never transferred the title to him, and eventually, I decided I had enough of being patient. The next morning, I gathered every paper I had in my file cabinet: title, insurance, original registration, all bearing my name. I contacted the DMV and had all the records switched back to my current address. Then, I informed the insurance company that he was no longer authorized to drive the car. After organizing a tow service to be ready, I went over to their house without any prior notice. I did not send a message or knock on the door. I simply approached the car, unlocked it with the extra key I never handed over, and began removing belongings from the trunk. Midway through, my dad stepped outside, coffee in hand, seemingly thinking this was some kind of joke. When he asked what I was doing, I told him plainly I was reclaiming my car. He chuckled, claiming he needed it and that I could not possibly do this to him. He accused me of overreacting because of some old books and birthday issues. I paused and stared at him. I said, "No, I am doing this because you took from me without a second thought. You left your granddaughter waiting for the entire day on her birthday. After that, you used my card without getting my permission. Then you ruined something that truly meant a lot to me. You no longer have the right to possess my things." He began to raise his voice and asked if I was seriously prepared to risk our entire relationship over this issue. I did not respond. Instead, I finished clearing the car, got inside, and drove away calmly. I neither rushed nor slammed the door. I simply left. That evening, he called me twice, but I chose not to answer. Later, he left a voicemail claiming that we needed to have a conversation, insisting that things had escalated too far and expressing a desire to fix the situation. I listened carefully and came to the conclusion that he was not actually sorry. What he hated was losing control. For the first time, I refused to surrender it back to him. After reclaiming the SUV, a few days passed in silence. I assumed they were regrouping, searching for a new tactic, some fresh method to manipulate me back with guilt. They had pulled this before ignoring me and then acting as if nothing had happened, a passive-aggressive reset. This time, however, the silence felt different. Not comforting, but unsettling in a way that does not feel natural. A silence that makes you sense something is about to happen. It was my mother who broke the quiet first. She did not call to speak directly, but left a voicemail instead. Her tone was calm, rehearsed, as though drafting an email for a client. She said that things had gotten out of hand quickly and expressed hope that I would take some time to reconsider all of this before moving forward. Things reach a point where repair is impossible. She said my dad was merely attempting to mend things in his own way, and that I needed to rise above once more, to be the larger person. That is always what they say when they expect me to bear the burden of their mistakes. I did not reply. I erased the message and continued with my day. Yet I should have realized this was not the conclusion. A couple of nights later, my husband arrived home from work carrying a package left on our doorstep. It lacked a return address, bearing only my name scrawled in sharp black ink. My dad's handwriting. Inside was a small cardboard box sealed shut. When I shook it, it made a heavy, uneven sound. I opened it. Ashes and torn pieces of paper lay inside. Some were burnt almost to dust. Others still showed fragments of color, letters, and familiar edges of comic book covers. I recognized the titles instantly. X-Men number 4, The Killing Joke, Detective Comics number 475. A rare Spider-Man crossover I had won at an auction in the year 2000. He had taken what remained of my collection, what was not already discarded or given away, and burned it. He had cremated my past and left it on my doorstep. No note, no explanation. This was the most intentional act he had ever committed. I did not cry. I did not shout. I simply sat at the kitchen table and stared at the pile of ashes as if it was a stranger's remains. The last tangible piece of my childhood was obliterated, not due to an accident, nor fire damage or flood, but by choice. Because my father had made a definitive decision, he wanted to ensure that I would never return from this. And he succeeded in doing just that. He set the bridge on fire with his own hands. The next day, I logged into the garage app for the Lexus they still kept, the same one I had purchased outright many years ago and handed over when their old sedan broke down. I had paid for it completely, registered it in my name, and insured it. Although I told them they could use the car, I never signed the ownership documents over. I disabled their remote access, contacted the towing service, and arranged for the vehicle to be picked up that afternoon. The car was gone by 6 o'clock. Then, at 6:42 p.m., my phone rang. It was Dad calling, and this time I answered. He did not ask how I was, did not bring up the comics, nor did he say sorry. Instead, he immediately demanded explanations about the car, accusing me of being unstable, ungrateful, and a dangerous failure for the family. He claimed I had brought shame upon him and that I was trying to ruin whatever little remained between us. I let him speak without interruption. When he finally paused to catch his breath, I responded, "You are not in a good state, and I am no longer willing to play along." That seemed to affect him deeply. I heard a silence. Then he said, "So this is it after all I have done for you?" To which I answered, "Yes, that is exactly it." He said nothing more and simply ended the call. Sitting there watching my phone screen go dark, I experienced a newfound sense of peace, something I had not felt for years. But that was not the conclusion. I believed I had finally closed that chapter. Then Lily called. And for the first, this time, she did not sound like them. 2 days after the last conversation with my father, after the ashes, after the Lexus, I received a call from Lily. I almost did not pick up. A part of me anticipated more conflict, more guilt, more disguised pleas, but something urged me to answer. She sounded different. No bitterness, no defensiveness, just calm. She said, "I know everything is broken, and I realize I should have stopped them when I had the chance." Then she paused briefly, as if deciding whether to continue. She admitted she did not agree with their actions. She said she did not know they planned to destroy the comics, and only found out afterward, when it was too late to intervene. She confessed she was afraid I would block her, or even worse, never talk to her again. Then she said something I did not expect. "I am not asking for anything. I just want you to know I do not have the comics. They are no help to me. Not for rent, not for school, nor for anything else. It is only me." She revealed she had been struggling to manage everything: classes, part-time job, and student debt. She broke down. When I mentioned the rent, she panicked. Not because she felt entitled, she explained, but because she had no alternative. She had not told them I was still covering the rent because they never offered to assist. "They think I am breezing through law school," she said. "They have no idea how much I am struggling." I remained silent for a moment. Then she said, "I understand why you stopped. I do not deserve that, yet I am not like them. I promise you, I am not." Hearing it from her felt different. She was the only one who had not tried to manipulate the story, who had not shouted at me or made excuses. She simply sounded exhausted. Genuine. So I asked, "How much is your rent?" After a pause, she said, $750. I nodded. "You will have it by tomorrow." She did not thank me immediately or break down in tears. Instead, she exhaled and said, "I will pay you back. I am not sure when, but I will." I replied, "This is not about the money." Because it was never about that. It was about the boundary, the one they crossed, destroyed, and disrespected, the one she recognized and chose to step away from. I am not naive. I understand this does not solve everything, but in a family like mine, sometimes one sincere sentence carries more weight than countless false apologies. So yes, I will help her. $750 a month will not break me, and she is the only one who has not destroyed herself. It has been several weeks since everything happened. The ashes, the car, the last conversation with my father. Things have been mostly calm, at least from their side. My mother has not called. My father has not made any attempts since I shut him down. My husband once ran into my mother at the supermarket. They looked at each other, but she turned and walked away without a word. Lily has been consistent, sending rent confirmations every month even though I never asked her to. She checks in once or twice a week, but never forces anything. I can tell she is moving forward. She is walking carefully, but she remains present, making an effort. Then something unexpected arrived in the mail. A letter appeared, handwritten with no return address, only my name written on the front in a trembling and careful cursive. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It belonged to my grandfather, my father's father. We had not really communicated for many years, not because of conflict, but because of distance. After my grandmother died, he relocated to the western part of the country, and our contact was limited to rare Christmas cards or birthday calls that felt more like obligations. I never would have thought he knew what had happened, but apparently, he was aware. One of my cousins follows Lily on social media and managed to piece things together from a few vague posts. It seemed family secrets were unraveling, and the truth was refusing to stay hidden. That was enough to spark gossip. The letter itself was brief, only about a page and a half, yet every sentence carried weight. He did not criticize me or try to fix things on behalf of others. Instead, he told me he was proud. He acknowledged that my father had always been a complicated person, having witnessed him hurt others, manipulate situations, and wear different masks, even as a son. He said what I did, standing up for myself and my child and refusing to be the family scapegoat, took more bravery than most people possess. He admitted he wished he had shown this kind of courage at some point in his own life. Near the end, he wrote, "I have a spare room. If you ever want to escape for a while, you are welcome here. No questions, no judgment." He left his phone number. I have not called. I hadn't contacted him yet. I honestly did not know what to say. However, that letter broke through a barrier I had not realized was there. A weight, a numbness had settled inside me. It reminded me that not every member of the family line is damaged. Perhaps, just maybe, I hadn't lost my entire family, only its flawed parts. It is strange to recognize what peace actually feels like when it is something unfamiliar. It is not about grand displays or dramatic moments of resolution. Instead, it is calm and stillness, the simple absence of turmoil. I used to believe that I needed them, that even when they hurt me, they were still family. I thought that maybe if I tried harder, gave more, and forgave sooner, they would view me differently. They might love me in a way that did not require me to prove it through sacrifice. But they never did. Their love was reserved for the version of me who kept everything together, who fixed problems, paid the bills, answered the calls, and claimed it is okay when it was not. They did not know the real me, nor did they wish to. What mattered to them was gaining access to my money, my time, and my willingness to be silenced by guilt. And when those resources ran dry, their show of affection ended too. My husband noticed the change before I could. He began leaving little notes around the house. "Proud of you. You are doing what is hard. She is fortunate to have you." By she, he meant our daughter. He expressed without words that I was no longer only protecting myself. I was teaching our daughter what boundaries look like. That love does not mean allowing others to hurt you repeatedly. That family is more than just enduring pain. It is not about who you are born to, but about who chooses to arrive, who remains, who says, "I am sorry," and truly means it. Forgiveness does not come from time passing alone, but through deeds and transformation. It is difficult to face your parents and accept that they might never be the ones to teach you what it means to be loved. Sometimes, you have to become your own teacher. Some days, I feel all right. Other times I long for them, or perhaps I just miss the idea of them. Whenever I consider calling or reaching out, I recall the ash in the box, the quiet on her birthday, the money they never asked for before they left. I also remember what Lily said. She claimed, "I am not them." She was the only one who expressed that, the only one who showed up despite everything. She never demanded me to forget but pleaded for a chance to improve. I granted her that chance not because I am the bigger person or owe her anything, but because she asked sincerely. I saw myself in her, struggling silently, still striving to be enough for those who never saved her. Now we keep in touch about school, stress, or sometimes just meaningless talk. I still cover her rent, and she sends receipts as if it is a binding agreement, as if she needs to prove herself. She does not have to, but I understand that sometimes we need to convince ourselves we are not like them. The holidays passed without any calls, messages, or invitations. My mother shared a photo of their Christmas dinner, just her and my father smiling before a rented fireplace. She wrote, "Peace and gratitude." I chose not to respond, not to react, not to let it affect me. My daughter wondered if her grandparents would be visiting this year. I told her they would not. When she asked why, I explained, "Sometimes adults do not know how to show kindness, even to those they are meant to love." She looked at me silently for a moment and softly said, "That is sad." I agreed quietly. It truly is. We prepared our own meal, simple and intimate, just the three of us. Her joyful laughter echoed through the home as she unwrapped a book she had wanted and a stuffed bear dressed in a red sweater. My husband captured a moment as she hugged the bear, beaming joyfully. Later that night, I gazed at that image and thought, this is family. This is enough. The feeling was no longer about revenge. Instead, it felt like healing. There is a notable difference between slamming a door and quietly locking it. What I did came not from anger, but from acceptance. I recognized they would never become what I needed. The love I searched for over so many years was never going to arrive, and it was not because I lacked worth. Rather, they simply did not have the capacity. I once believed that setting boundaries was a battle. I feared saying no would make me the villain. However, sometimes saying no is the most compassionate choice for oneself. No, you cannot take my peace. No, you cannot use my future to settle your past. No, I refuse to diminish myself just to make you comfortable. The silence that followed has been louder than anticipated, yet strangely more gentle. I have begun, sleeping more soundly, savoring each bite, and smiling without hesitation. My daughter recently mentioned that I laugh more often now. She said it as if it were the simplest fact in the world. Yet I felt it deeply, like a ray of sunlight breaking through years of mist. She notices. She truly sees me, the authentic me. For the very first time in my existence, that feels sufficient. Recently, I finally reached out to my grandfather by phone. The letter had rested in my drawer for several weeks, folded and reread until its edges became frayed, almost like something sacred. I was unsure of what to say when he answered, but he picked up on the second ring. "Eliza," he said gently, just my name, with no hint of reproach, only warmth as if I had not taken too long. We spent nearly an hour talking about simple things: the weather, his dog, my work, and our daughter's newfound fascination with planets and telescopes. He never mentioned my parents, never questioned what they did or requested any details. He understood enough already. Before we ended the call, he shared, "That room's always open, you know, if you ever need a place to breathe." I replied, "Thank you, not only for the room, but for truly seeing me, for reminding me that not all roots decay. Some grow deep, strong, and tender, even if that is rare." That evening, I sat on the porch with my husband after our daughter had gone to sleep. It was calm, filled only with the hum of streetlights and the gentle sounds of the night. He said, "You have changed." And I asked, "For better or for worse?" He smiled, "For real." Perhaps that is all I ever truly desired. Not vengeance, nor restitution, simply to be authentic, to be loved without having to suffer first, to be listened to without raising my voice, to live without feeling exhausted. Now I am creating that life through careful decisions. One barrier reconstructed, one entrance kept securely closed. My family did not merely overlook my daughter's birthday. They revealed their true nature to me. And at last, I accept their reality. This is the conclusion, the aftermath, the calm. Not because everything is flawless, but because I ceased attempting to mend those unwilling to heal. Because I stopped giving pieces of myself to those who never reciprocated.